Alright, welcome back everybody. So today I'm finally doing the long-awaited, long-teased Go setup for Emacs. So the very first thing I need to do, of course, is to actually install Go. Oh boy. Trouble with the VM already. But anyway, so today we're going to install Go. We're going to be installing company mode in Emacs along with lsp-mode. And then I'm also going to install Go mode and some of the Go packages that are necessary for integrating with all of that stuff. So first things first, pacman-s Go. Let's go ahead and do that. And let's see if I can go ahead and turn on screen key while I'm at it. Perfect. Okay, so while that's installing, let's go ahead and jump into Emacs. Oh. So I turn caps lock back on. Okay. D. We're gonna hop in init EL. Actually, before I get too far along here, I need to fix my my caps lock key. I'm just gonna copy my .xmodmap file over from my config. Maybe I might just have to type it. Clear lock. So I'm gonna bind my caps lock to control. Control. Add control equals caps lock. The reason I haven't had to do this before is because I was using a different keyboard, where I actually did this binding in one of the layers of the keyboard. What? Is this how you... Alright, forget it. Assemble. Okay. Okay, excellent. Alright, so we got Go installed. Go version. Beautiful. Cool. Alright, we got Go installed. Let's go back up here just a little. The first thing I want to install after that is lsp-mode. So lsp-mode is an Emacs mode for the language server protocol. So it, along with company mode, is really going to form the base for all of our programming setup in Emacs. There's another language server client, I guess, for Emacs called eglot, I think. But I haven't used that one. And from what I've heard, it takes a little more effort to set up. So I basically tried lsp-mode first and have just stuck with it because it seemed to work really well for the languages I've tried. So the first things first, we're just going to use package lsp-mode. We need to ensure it's there. And then I think that's it for now. Let's get that installing. And so then I'll actually add a couple other things here. So one thing you're almost definitely going to want to configure is what triggers the lsp-mode bindings. By default, we'll check the default in just a second, but I believe the default is like super L, which is really not going to work for me inside DWM, and I think it probably won't work on a lot of different desktop environments. So just to check that, let's see, Control H, W, lsp command. Let's see. I'm not sure what it is on. lsp-command-map. Key map. Yeah, I'm not sure, but I think it's bound by default to the super key. So the first thing, let's go ahead and configure this. Actually, we can use bind. I don't think we've seen this for use package yet, but this is a good way to bind keys. So let's define this inside the lsp-mode map. lsp-mode map. Let's see. Now we just type this, Control-C-L. So that's how we're going to trigger our binding for that. And then outside of this, I'll also just do some stuff like this. So inside of lsp-mode, I like to have Control-C-D bound to lsp-describe thing at point. And I like to have Control-C-A bound to lsp-execute code action. Okay? So there we go. The other thing I have set up is config lsp-enable which key integration. So we may go ahead and install which key as well, assuming we don't have it already. Yeah, let's go ahead and install which key. So if you haven't heard of it before, which key is really useful if you don't know what some keys do. Which key, T. And I think we probably want to turn this on globally. Let me just check from my config. I did forget about which key actually. Use package. Yeah, we just want to turn on which key mode. So this will be clear what it does in just a second. So for example, if I hit Control X and I wait a second, which key is going to pop up down here in the bottom, giving me some things I can do next. So I hit Control X. You see if I type, this might not have been a good example because there's a lot of it, but let's see, if I hit D, that opens dirred, or Control X, B does switch to buffered, for example. So which key is really handy? It's especially handy in LSP mode because LSP mode does a lot of stuff. So let's do, okay good, we don't have LSP, we're not in LSP mode. So these should actually probably all be inside. I think these should all go right here. Okay, there we go. These should all be inside that binding. So I think right now if I hit Control-CD, yeah, LSP describes the point. But we don't have a server enabled, so that's not going to work. Okay, so we've got LSP mode, we've got which key set up. That's the core. Now the next really important thing we need to install is called company mode. So company mode, or LSP mode optionally integrates with company mode. But company mode is really important to me because it's what is going to put the completions inside of our buffer. So again, the configuration for company mode is actually pretty straightforward. So we'll do company, ensure T, and let me see if there's anything else. A couple things you're probably going to want to set up are the idle delay. So we can set Q company idle delay, and I set that to 0.1. So this is the time in seconds before it will start offering you suggestions. So you probably don't want to set that. You can set it to 0, in which case it will immediately start offering you suggestions, but I kind of like there to be a slight delay. And then you can also set company minimum prefix length. So as well as restraining the time at which it starts giving you suggestions, you can also tell it how many characters you want to type. So with one set, I think this one kind of doesn't make sense if it's 0, because in that case it would just start offering you random suggestions on like a blank line. At least this way, it will wait until you start typing to give any suggestion. Okay. The other things I have set are, I have company key map, unbind, quick access, company active map. Now the presence of this double dash here, to me implies that this is an internal function that I probably shouldn't really be calling. But what this does, and I actually have a comment in my config saying this, is that this keeps me from selecting things in the dropdown with meta and a number. And the reason I unbind that is actually right here, as we saw in the last video. I use ynum or treemax to select different windows using meta and a number. So basically what was happening to me is I was in a program I was typing. I had just inserted some completion, and company mode was still open. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second with these little drop downs. And I would hit like meta 2 to jump to my other window. And it would insert some completely unrelated completion, which was not very nice, obviously. The other thing I do is company TNG, configure default. If you've never tried company mode, you may want to try leaving that off. But at some point, company changed basically what the tab key does. And I prefer the old tab key way, so I put this back in. Let's just, now that we installed it, we can actually see what these do. So applies the default configuration to enable company tab and go. Use company tab and go mode instead. Okay, so eventually that's going to stop working apparently. Let's see if this is documented. Yeah, it's not documented, so I'm probably not supposed to call it. Okay, so now we've got company mode. Now, let's see if we can actually turn company mode on in here. What is this? Okay, yes. So one thing I do want to add to company mode that I should have grabbed from my config is the way company works is it's a generic completion front end, I believe. So the way you want to get it working is you have to give it a specific back end. So that's how lsp mode is going to slot into company mode. And before I started using lsp mode, I actually had to set up all of the backends myself. So for example, I used to install company go to go with my go mode. And then I would have to tell company to use company go as its backend. And so I actually got really nice completions, but it was a lot more complicated to get that set up. Now I just install lsp mode, I just install company mode, and they're going to sync together in the background without us having to do anything. However, what I do want to do is add some extra configuration here that's going to turn on company mode in emacs-lisp-mode. So I'm going to add a hook, emacs-lisp, or I should turn that off, emacs-lisp-mode, and then I'm just going to bind that to this function, setQLocal company backends company elisp. So this one is actually built into company mode. We don't have to install company elisp separately, but if we take a look right now at the variable company backends, you'll see that there's a bunch of stuff in it. So the reason that we're having trouble when I just enabled company mode without setting the backend is it was filling things from all of these. So we don't really want that. We only want the company elisp backend. So I'll set that, and then once that's set, I will also add another hook to emacs-lisp-mode just to turn company mode on. So once I evaluate this again and save it, I can use Control-X-X-G to revert the buffer, and now company mode should be on. If which key would go away, yeah, so now you can see down here the company mode is on. Alright, so that's most of the way there, actually. Hop back to my show notes. I will actually put these on my blog because I kind of wrote up the configuration today. Or I may put it on GitHub. I'm intending to make a repo for this configuration. Okay, use package company. Let me show off one other neat thing, is that I can actually narrow to region. We have invoked the disabled command. Try it and enable it. Yes. What? There we go. So basically what this did is it narrowed to the region I had selected. So now we don't have to see the other stuff that we worked on before. So this is everything that we've done today. We installed which key, we installed lsp mode, and we just finished installing company mode, which is now running. Now that we took care of all of that, well, let me say one thing before we move on, is that that takes care of most of your configuration for other languages as well. So we haven't done anything Go specific yet. We've done something slightly Emacs-Lisp specific with company mode, but that was just for convenience. And, I mean, if you're in Emacs, you probably are going to want Emacs-Lisp editing at some point, so that's good. But now it's time for us to move on to the Go portion. So I'm going to go ahead and label this like that. This is going to be the Go section of our config. So the major configuration we need for this is just to use package go mode. Again, we want to ensure that. And let's add some hooks again. So the one thing you do have to do to set up Go, the language-specific modes with LSP, is you're going to want to add this hook to call LSP deferred. You can just call LSP, but LSP deferred, I think, will kind of like defer loading of the language server, which can take a second when you visit like a bunch of files, or maybe I think it defers it until you actually visit the file, something like that. From what I've read, it's better to use LSP deferred instead of just LSP directly. And then the other thing we want is to start company mode. We want to start Go mode. I'm not totally sure. LSP might do that for you automatically, but I don't think it hurts to do that. And again, I want to add a couple bindings. So we're going to do these in the Go mode map. So what I like to do is bind F6 to go funct. I think we can actually leave those quotes off. Yeah. And when I'm using my small keyboard that doesn't actually have the function keys, I bind it to Control C6 as well. So that should take care of our bindings. After that, config. One other thing I actually didn't really understand until recently is that LSP mode comes with a bunch of these language-specific modes with it, but you have to actually activate them directly by requiring them. So when we're in Go mode, we're going to actually want to require lsp-go. Okay. And then something I found out even more recently is that you can actually set additional analyses inside of lsp-go. So basically, I've turned all of them on. So if you set Q, well, we can go ahead and require this because it came with LSP mode. So now we can do lsp-go analyses, and this takes a list. Let me recenter. That looks like this. So one, let's do field alignment. T. So what this one checks is for struct field alignment. So basically, if you have a big struct, it's going to realign it to take up the least amount of memory. So that was pretty fun. You can also enable nilness. So I think this one takes care of pointless nil checks. Let's see. lsp-go analyses. I think we'll actually need to link the go please documentation. Specific analyses. Includes additional analyses. Settings. Yeah, so basically this page right here, let me put this into the config. This gives you a list of all of the optional settings for Go Please. Let's see, diagnostics. Yeah. So analyses is in JavaScript would be a map of string to bool, or maybe in Go, I'm not sure. So this is where you can find all of this. So if I look for a line, oh, maybe this is not the right page. Let's try this doc. Analyzers MD. Sorry about that. Analyzers MD. Okay, here we go. Field alignment. Yeah, so basically I just turned on all the ones that weren't already enabled by default. So I scrolled through here, looked for disabled by default, and turned it on. So this one's fun. I've gotten to use this a lot already. I'll probably try to create an example for this today. So we got field alignment turned on. We got nilness. What is nilness? Check for redundant or impossible nil comparisons. Great. Yeah, so in this case, basically if you're getting to recover, it's not going to be nil. What else? Nilness, unused right, and then I also have unused params on. So unused, I can't quite remember what unused right is, but unused params is for, like, if you have a function definition with parameters and you don't use one of them inside, it'll highlight that. So let's see what unused right is. Check for unused rights. Yes. This one's nice because when you're doing this range loop like this, obviously this makes a copy. So if you do v.x and you try to set that, this will catch that because that's a useless write. And usually that's not what you meant to do. So that's a very helpful analysis, actually. Okay, so we'll set up all of those analyses. The other thing we're going to want to do is we need to add to list exec path. And you can see actually in company mode, I can either hit tab and shift tab to go up and down, or I can hit control N, control P. So add to list exec path. And let's see, did it create go? It did not. So what you want to put here, this is going to be your go path. Go path / bin. And the reason we need to do this is some of the functionality of go mode is actually tied to external packages. Well, including go please. So go please is going to get installed inside of /go bin. So we're going to need that actually for go please to work. And we're also going to need it for this part. So go mode comes with this go funct command, which is obviously what I'm calling here, what I'm trying to bind in our go mode map. And I'm actually going to set that to go imports, which we're going to have to install as well. Okay, so it looks like we've got go mode set up. But as I was saying, before we actually jump into that, we are going to need to install some of these external commands. So the first thing we need is actually go please. So we can go install golang.org/x/tools/go please at latest. So that's going to get us our Go language server. After that, we're going to install Go imports. So Go imports is just a nice program. It basically wraps Go funct, so it handles formatting for us. But on top of that, it will also handle any imports. So it will delete imports you don't need anymore, and it will also add imports that you use in the code. Today I've been trying, or I guess yesterday really, I was trying to set up Emacs for some Rust development. And this is one of the things I miss the most, is that automatic imports in Rust are actually bound to code actions in lsp-mode, which is a little bit less convenient, I think, than just calling Rust funct or Go funct. But anyway, I'm learning to live with it. So we're also going to want to get Go imports. It also comes from golang.org/x/tools, except this one comes from tools/command/go imports at latest. So we'll grab that. And if I pop open another terminal here, yeah, you see that the tilde/go was created. Inside it, we've got bin. And if I ls that, we're going to have go imports and go please. The last thing I want to install also comes from xtools command is godoc. So what godoc's going to let us do is get some documentation in our browser. So once that's installed, that part's not actually really going to integrate with Emacs, I don't think, but it is very useful for Go development, especially if you happen to be offline, because you can pull up. So if I just type godoc pkg, for example, I can go here and I can access the online documentation. But once we have godoc installed, we can just access it directly on localhost. Hopefully this will finish soon. Let's see. There we go. We've also got godoc now. So if I start godoc, yes. So if you want to run this stuff from outside of your, so I can do this right now. But we're also going to need to add this to our path in the shell if we want to access this elsewhere. So this is on localhost 6060, I think. Yeah, and you can see that we now have this. So one thing to watch out for, actually, is if you are working in a project that uses third-party packages, you're not just going to want to run godoc from some random location, because as you see, it's saying gomod equals dev null. But what you want to do in those cases is actually run godoc inside of the current module, because then it will pull the documentation for the third-party packages. This was driving me insane, because it used to not work like this. when I first started using Go, I would just run Go doc, and all my packages would be there. But now, you have to keep this in mind. So what I did here is just send it to the background. Well, first I did Control-Z to stop it, send it to the background. Now I've disowned it so that I can close my terminal and it will still work. So this is actually, I would recommend actually learning Go this way. So for example, if you want to, you're starting a project, how do I read files? Let's see, if I just search files, or you might need to refine it a little bit. This may not be perfect right away. Let's see, maybe I need to do some I/O. Maybe that'll just where I need to go. Oh, we can scroll a little. Because the documentation is really handy. So, okay, I need to do some I/O. Let's see, I'd like to read. Okay, so I can read all from a reader, but okay, what's a reader? How do I get a reader? Stuff like that. This is actually basically how I learned Go. So I highly recommend GoDoc and doing all that. Okay, but I think that takes care of all of our configuration. So let's go ahead and test it out, actually. So let's see, I'll just open one in temp. Go. Let's see, did LSP start? Yes. Import project. Okay, let's see, is it working? Error processing message, permission denied. Wait, so something went wrong with the LSP. So temp may have just not been a good... Okay. So you can see, let's just see what's going on. Expected semicolon found EOF. Let's see if this is going to work. So I'm not seeing any company mode yet. I think there's something wrong with our LSP. Checking for native JSON support. Okay, I may have... Let's just close Emacs for a second. And I'm going to hop over... Let's just make a projects directory. And then... Oh, I think the problem is that we need a Go module file. So, let's just make dir called try. And I'll do go mod init. Go mod init usbro.com/try. Okay, let's try open Emacs again. I really didn't need to close Emacs, but I did not realize immediately what the problem was. So let's try projects, try, main.go. So now we can import root, and now it looks like it did initialize successfully. So let's try package main. Okay, here we go, func main. And of course what we're going to do, func.println, and you can see that everything is working as anticipated. So we've got company mode, we've got the LSP working, and let's write a hello world. Wow, it actually just did that. And if I go here, if I hit F6, you'll see that we're getting go funked. I can also do this, and it'll run go imports. And now if I just compile, go run, beautiful, we got hello world. Oh, so it looks like I don't have flycheck installed. Where is that from? The last thing I would like to show you... Flycheck. Oh, that's actually a separate package. Alright, so the last thing we will do is set up flycheck. Because it's also useful in all of these different programming languages. Just make sure I got all that. Okay, it looks like we got that. So let's try this again. Let's do lsp restart workspace. And now you can see that I've opened the fly check errors over here. So this is why fly check's really handy. So let's say I forget this paren. We've got missing comma, stuff like that. So fly check's really handy, and I believe that's what this is down here. Yeah, waiting for backend. Yeah, perfect. So we got that. Let me just show off some of these analyzers. Let's see. Let's say. See if I can trigger the nilness one. Probably not. Oh yeah, there we got it. It's nil. So you can see, hopefully you guys can see this, but we've got these little curly lines down here. What's it gonna tell us? Tautological condition nil equals nil. So it can be a little hard to see some of this, but that's again why it's nice to do the fly checklist errors. So we've got the warning here. So here we've got warning, tautological condition, nil is nil. So that's from our nilness analyzer. Let's try defining a struct. Type bad struct. And basically, I think if you read about the analyzer, it says something about how I think the garbage collector has to like go through the struct, and for some reason has to look differently for pointer fields. So if you put the pointer fields at the end, it takes up more space, something like that. Let's see if I can trigger this. Undeclared name. So this is something I run into occasionally, is that it will highlight stuff like this. And if you just make some other change and then save it, it will take care of that. It's just a little annoying. So you can see again that we're getting this. Struct with 24 pointer bytes could be 16. So this is a perfect opportunity to show how to use a code action. So as we set it, we can do Control-C, L to trigger our... okay, I must have messed this up. I think you do need the quotes, actually. lsp-command-map. Let's try this. Auto-loading mode. Fail to define function lsp-command-map. Okay, so maybe we can't do it like that. Alright, fair enough. lsp-mode map. Okay, well, anyway, the way I have it in my own config is just using define key. lsp-mode map. I define kbd Control-C-L to be lsp-command-map. Isn't that what I had? lsp-command-map. Let's see if that works. Okay, there you go. And so you can see the which key down here. The way you perform a code action is with A. And you see how it reordered the fields of the struct for us. I just realized that I have Control-C-A bound to that. So that's good. But it's also good to do stuff with lsp-mode. So something else we can do is we can do like lsp rename, Control-C-L-R-R. So we rename F to FL slice or something like that. Now, let's see if it actually defines an action for this. Yeah, okay, there's no action for that. Got F6. Do I have F5 bound? Alright, so the last thing to add is for compilation. So I usually, the reason partially that I bound gofump to F6 is because it's right next to what I bind my compile command to. So what I like to do is global set key kbd F5 to recompile. So now you see, if I hit F5, it's just going to recompile it. So basically, what I like to do is I'll delete stuff, DW, So I can write F6, F5, and then run it again. Before I started using lsp-mode, I also had go lint installed, which I bound to F4. So I would do like F6, F4, F5 to do that. But anyway, now with LSP and flycheck, we don't really need to have the linter separately. Okay, so that's pretty much it. The last thing I want to talk about, I used to install go def, which would pull up stuff like this down here in the bottom. But as you can see, LSP does this, I think with LDoc, so I don't really see it necessary to install go def separately. Now, another cool thing that we can do is Control-C-D, which gives us help for this, as you can see over here. So again, that's from lsp-mode, so we don't really need like go docket point. I think if we do, let's look at go mode. All the extra functions. Yeah, so this used to define go docket point. So I used to, I would have go def describe bound to Control-C-D, and then I would have go docket point bound to Control-C, Control-D. But as you can see, lsp-mode actually handles this really well, so I don't really find it necessary to bind that separately anymore. Okay, so I think that's all I really wanted to show. Hopefully that gets you guys rolling with Go inside of Emacs. This is going to supersede my old blog posts on this because there's a lot of stuff that I've found out about since then. So my original blog post covered Go mode, company Go, and all that stuff. But now this is how I've moved to writing code in Go. So I hope this helps you guys out. And as I was saying, I hope that this section of the config will actually help you out in other programming language modes as well. So if you've made it this far in the video, please let me know what language you'd like to see next. Some things I've got in mind are Python and also Rust, because I've been playing with Rust the past couple days as well. But other than that, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I will see you all next time.